Welcome to the lesson on the Eighth Commandment. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. The Eighth Commandment is a lot like the Second Commandment. The Second Commandment protects God's name. The Eighth Commandment protects your neighbor's name. When we studied the Second Commandment, you shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, we learned that God's name isn't just his titles, but also his reputation. When we say that the Eighth Commandment protects our neighbor's name, we mean the same thing. God forbids us from doing anything that would hurt our neighbor's reputation. It specifically forbids lying about someone in a court of law, but God isn't only concerned about the inside of a courtroom. No matter where we are, he wants us to use our words to build people up, not tear them down. Speaking of tongues, the tongue is one of the most powerful muscles in the human body. It may not be able to lift a lot of weight, but it sure can wield a lot of influence. Don't let its size fool you. In the book of James, God compares the tongue to a little spark that sets a whole forest on fire. The tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. The tongue also is a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole person, sets the whole course of his life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell. All kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, and creatures of the sea are being tamed and have been tamed by man, but no man can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil, full of deadly poison. Maybe you've experienced how just a few words about someone can do a whole lot of damage. You hear one bad thing about a person, and it taints them in your mind. It changes the way you think about them. And it can take an awful long time for them to win back your respect and trust you again. It's been said that a good reputation is one of the hardest things to get and one of the easiest things to lose. And what we say about other people can easily ruin their reputations. So God compares the tongue to a spark that starts a forest fire because of the great damage it can do. He also compares it to a wild animal. It's possible to tame a wild animal and keep it under control. It's a whole lot harder to keep our tongues under control. And like a spark that starts a forest on fire, once the harmful words leave our lips, it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to contain the damage. In Proverbs, God compares harmful words to letting a sparrow go free and then trying to catch it. Like a fluttering sparrow or a darting swallow, an undeserved curse does not come to rest. Once the words leave your lips, good luck trying to get them back again. Another way to picture it is like letting a bunch of feathers go flying in the wind. Once they're out, you're going to have a hard time getting them back again. Words can be very damaging, and it's usually impossible to take them back. So specifically, what kind of damaging talk does God forbid? That's pretty simple. Any damaging talk. Anything that is intended to hurt someone. That's an extremely important point. God doesn't only forbid lies that are intended to hurt someone's reputation. He also forbids saying true things that hurt someone's reputation. The explanation captures that by forbidding anything that would give someone a bad name. We could easily summarize it with the word gossip. Gossip is one of our society's favorite pastimes, but it's sinful and does great harm. Gossip isn't just lies, but it's any talk, whether true or untrue, that comes from a heart with evil intentions. Whether the evil intention is to tear someone else down or to make ourselves feel better at their expense, it's wrong. Some other terms you might hear that are related to gossip are slander and libel. Slander refers to words that are spoken to hurt people. Libel is words that are written to hurt people. Like all the other commandments, the Eighth Commandment doesn't only tell us what not to do, it also tells us what to do. The tongue is capable of doing a lot of damage, but it can also be used as a tool to serve our neighbor. For example, if someone sins and we find out about it, our first inclination would be to run up to our friends and spill the goods. Hey, did you hear about what Frank did? Well, I'll tell you. And I suppose what draws us to that kind of gossip is that it makes us feel important, that other people would want to listen to us. That's the sin that God condemns. Instead, if someone sins and we find out about it, we obey the Eighth Commandment when we go to the person who sinned and speak to them in love. Look at this passage from Matthew 18. If your brother sins against you, go and show him his fault, just between the two of you. If he listens to you, you have won your brother over. So don't destroy his reputation. Instead, look out for his soul. Another example from Proverbs. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. If you're in a group where gossip is going on, don't join in. Instead, defend the person whose reputation is being slandered. Speak up for them. If the gossiper won't listen, walk away. It's hard for them to gossip if no one listens. The last phrase of the explanation is a little different from the rest. It doesn't address what we say, it addresses how we hear. Take your neighbor's words and actions in the kindest possible way. Oh, think of how many fights and how much sadness and sin could be avoided if we always put the best possible construction on everything we heard. Maybe you walk into your classroom at school and someone says in front of everyone else, "That's an interesting outfit you're wearing today." But instead of assuming that they meant to make fun of you, if you assume that they meant it in a good way and said thank you, or just brushed it off, that would be an example of taking their words and actions in the kindest possible way. That's the kind of reaction God is talking about in 1 Corinthians when he says that love always trusts. In Proverbs, God says, "A good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold." A good reputation is so valuable because it determines whether or not people will trust us. A good reputation is one of the hardest things to get and one of the easiest things to lose. With the Eighth Commandment, God seeks to protect our reputations and the reputations of others by what we say and don't say and how we receive the words of others.